Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
But by the time you get to the midterms, he's going to be looking for an endorsement.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that this has been the greatest opening, almost 3 weeks, in the history of the presidency.
It's definitely been the fastest and the most stuff
Well,
happening.
we've done so much so fast, and we really had to, because they have really, what they've done to our country is so sad. It's so sad. We're going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before.
God damn, that was a quick no. If you were looking for any indication that loyalty is a one-way street for Trump, there you go. In fact, it takes Trump seconds before he immediately shifts the attention away from J.D. Vance and back onto himself. A lot of people are saying that this has been the greatest opening in the history of the presidency. That was his response to a question about J.D. Vance becoming the next president. The extent to which Trump is blinded by his own narcissism cannot be overstated. Although frankly, the fact that Trump hasn't tried to have J.D. Vance killed is worth noting. Given his track record for Trump's other VP, Vance should probably consider himself lucky that all he's getting is the swift humiliation of Trump hanging him out to dry on national television, considering the alternative is sicking a mob of lunatics to the Capitol with a gallows with his name on it. So in a way, J.D. Vance coming out of this thing alive is a win unto itself. And obviously, the reason that Trump won't endorse JD, aside from the fact that he may very well have no faith in him, is because he is just that allergic to the very notion of anybody getting the spotlight other than him. If Trump had said yes, that would mean news cycle after news cycle would focus on the heir apparent, and it would lose focus on the lame duck. Trump couldn't possibly stomach such a thing. He couldn't possibly contend with the pain of not being right the fuck in everybody's faces all day long. That is the downfall of having a malignant narcissist in office. Far from making room for others in the party, this also explains his insatiable appetite for breaking things for the sole purpose of making news. That is why we're stuck dealing with the prospect of Canada being annexed as our 51st state. That's why we're stuck contending with the prospect of invading Panama or Greenland or Denmark. That is why we're stuck redrawing maps to say Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico, because he needs the attention. He needs to make news. Donald Trump is like if a strobe light was a person. And so the very notion of him making room for the next person in his own party, that is so foreign to him, he would rather cast it off in a heartbeat than even entertain the prospect of allowing someone else to step into the spotlight. There's another more dangerous read of all of this too, that Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about the heir apparent because he has no intention of relinquishing the presidency. Here he is teasing that notion.
I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again, Mike? I better not get you involved in that argument.
And this is something he's been teasing since 2019.
We've got it really rocking. We're looking good. We're looking good for another 4 years, and then we're going to And what I'll say is I have a certain group of reporters that say we're looking good for another 4 years, and then if we want to, another 4, maybe another 5. And they go crazy. Just watch out, Bill Maher. He goes and looks at somebody like that. He goes, you know he's going to win, don't you? To some idiot that he's interviewing. He says, you know he's going to win. No, I think we can. You know he's going to win. And you know he's not leaving, don't you? The guy's going, what do you mean? He's not leaving. He's not leaving after. And I thought he was kidding. He's been serious. So, did anybody ever see the Time magazine where we have it? 2020, 2024, 2028, 2032. In other words, we do that to drive them freaking crazy.
In fact, Republican Congressman Andy Ogles, in his desperation to be noticed by Daddy Trump, just introduced an amendment to the Constitution to allow Trump to run for a third term in office. The resolution he introduced would amend the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, which currently limits presidents to just 2 terms. Now, a few points here. Yes, this is nakedly unconstitutional. No, there is not enough support to amend the Constitution, for which you would need 2/3 of a majority of vote in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then ratification by 3/4 of the states. But most importantly, none of that means that Republicans won't still try. Remember, presidential immunity isn't in the Constitution either, and guess what? Republicans, with their help from their judges on the Supreme Court, created it out of whole cloth. Also, barring insurrectionists from running for federal office again is in the Constitution, and yet again, with the help of their judges on the court, they eliminated that provision entirely, meaning we ignore this at our own peril. We give Republicans the benefit of the doubt at our own peril. And look, Republicans will of course whine that this was all just a joke and why won't the Democrats get a better sense of humor? But we all know by now that so many things that start off as so-called jokes from Trump are actually his way of telling us exactly what he intends on doing. Remember by chance in December of 2020 when Trump tweeted, "Big protest in DC on January 6th, be there, will be wild"? And instead of the media treating his threats to democracy with the urgency and seriousness that they deserve, we got headlines instead like this one, claiming that despite his bluster, Trump was going to concede gracefully. Yeah, remind us, how did that work out? If he's willing to do that, and then turn around and pardon the very people who violently beat police officers and smeared feces on the wall of the Capitol, then very clearly nothing is sacrosanct. And anyone who's still trying to sane wash the words and actions of Trump and his Republican allies has their head in the sand. And finally, just one more note, this time to Trump's allies. You will set your integrity and your credibility and your dignity on fire for Trump. It has already happened in this very term, when Caroline Leavitt was trotted out to claim that the funding freeze that was blocked by a judge was in fact not blocked. And that resulted in the judge issuing a restraining order against the administration on week 1. And the coverage, on Fox News no less, looked like this.
And they will learn that the hard way. When they start pushing people out, this freeze that went so well. Yesterday that she had such a good first day of the press secretary, and now her tweet was enjoined, right, for the judge who looked at this and has frozen the freeze. It is complete chaos. It is not being managed in any sort of orderly fashion at all. It's confusing even Republican senators who are getting their marching orders from the top. Then they go out there, they say what they're supposed to say, like good little soldiers. Then they hear from all their constituents that the portals are down. They don't know what's going on with Head Start, Medicaid, et cetera. Then they hear that the freeze has been frozen. They say that's a good thing, and I'm sure they're about to get slapped on the wrist again when they've stepped out of line.
And look, while this is certainly embarrassing for Caroline Leavitt, that is the point. Trump doesn't care that Leavitt embarrassed herself. In fact, he wants her to embarrass herself. He wants his employees to show that they are willing to contract their dignity out to him. Her earning a restraining order serves the purpose of showing dear leader that he's got a loyal minion who is perfectly content to humiliate herself on his behalf. She gets a little pat on the head, and all it cost her was her self-worth and respect, a price that she, and clearly no shortage of other Republicans, are willing to pay. And honestly, there's going to come a point where, just like Sean Spicer, she's sold out so much that she has no more credibility, and at that point, Trump will likely discard her in exactly the same way he discards everybody else, and we've seen it before. Think about all of the people that he's discarded to help himself. He's fired Ronna McDaniel as RNC chair as if she was the reason that Republicans had been losing elections and not Donald Trump himself. He trashed his own former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, writing, "I don't need any advice from Rhino Kayleigh McEnany on Fox, just had a giant victory over a badly failing candidate. Bird brain, and she's telling me what I can do better. Save your advice for Nikki." Trump said that Paul Manafort, his campaign chairman, came into the campaign very late and was with us for a short period of time. He called George Papadopoulos, his foreign policy advisor, a low-level volunteer. He said of Gordon Sondland, his EU ambassador and campaign donor, "I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well." He said Michael Cohen, his own lawyer and fixer, did a, quote, tiny fraction of his legal work. Of Sidney Powell, he wrote, "Despite the fake news reports to the contrary, and without even reaching out to ask the Trump campaign, Ms. Powell was not my attorney and never was. In fact, she would have been conflicted." And the list goes on and on, but the point here is clear. Trump will throw you under the bus the moment he feels you've become politically inconvenient for him. And the only thing more embarrassing than being thrown under the bus by Trump is the fact that any of these people sell their soul to him in the first place, thinking that somehow it won't eventually happen to them too. At some point, everyone will be discarded by Donald Trump, even the people who are so deluded into thinking that they, unlike everybody else, are special. No one is special. And the same goes for the people who invest their money into him and his companies and his meme coins and whatever other new scams pop up on a daily basis. Let me not mince words. Trump does not care about you. He is not looking to help you Everybody in Trump's orbit is there in service of him and not the other way around. There is no mutual benefit to aligning yourself with Trump. You are there to provide something to him, and in return, you should expect nothing. So I hope that J.D. Vance is clear-eyed about the fact that while he was humiliated on national TV today, it won't be the last time. Trump will continue to exploit his servility until it's no longer useful to him. But until he's summarily discarded, and he will be summarily discarded, he will continue to sell out his dignity in service of a man who wouldn't lift a finger for him in return. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.